Mr. Bulent Ecevit, Her Excellency Lady Ecevit, and our brother Mr. Sahab, the grand old man of Pakistan politics, rather the grand young man of Pakistan politics, because the amount of energy and vitality that he possesses and exhibits puts all the younger people to shame. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to welcome the distinguished guests here on behalf of the National Democratic Alliance of Pakistan. Your Excellency, I need not mention the amount of love and respect and affection that the people of Pakistan have for the people of Turkey. And I'm sure that wherever you have gone, the amount of love and affection and respect that people have shown is itself an eloquent testimony of that love and that special bond which exists between the two countries. Your Excellency, we welcome you in Pakistan, and especially this evening, not only as a great son of Turkey and its former Prime Minister, but a person who intervened very forcefully in Cyprus when the life and honor of Muslims was threatened. Today again, we have a situation in countries like Bosnia, in Kashmir, in Palestine, and we wish that we had another Bulent Ecevit at the helm of affairs in the Muslim countries so that something could be done to save and protect the life and property of the Muslims there. Your Excellency, you have been speaking at various forums and addressing various kinds of gatherings, and your thoughts and your views have been coming to us through the press media. So I would not like, or I would not expect or request you to repeat what you have been saying elsewhere, because I'm sure that you have a very busy schedule and you must be very exhausted after speaking at so many forums. But there's one point I would request you to perhaps elaborate for our information and our knowledge. You see, ours is a new country and a new democracy. And like all in fact, it has had its teething trouble. It has had its teething trouble. There is civilian rule. There is always one crisis or another. Well, your democracy is a little older, not very old, but a little older, because you established it after the First World War, and we got our independence and our democracy after the Second World War. And you also had troubles of this kind in your country. Now, whenever we have a crisis in our country, we always talk of Turkish model, which implies as if the Turkish army has a constitutional role. Now, knowledgeable people know that it is not so. But I think there is a general misconception in this country that the Turkish army has a constitutional role to play in the affairs of the country. And I would request you to kindly tell us whether it is so, and if it is so, what is the role that the Turkish army has been given in the constitution of your republic. With these words, I would again say that it's been great honor for me personally that you have accepted my invitation to dinner this evening, and I again welcome you amongst us, and I request you to kindly come and say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mecliste bir savaş vermiştiniz. Anladın mı? Anladın mı? Yani onu söylemedim.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for giving me and my wife the honor of being together with you, the distinguished politicians and intellectuals of Pakistan, a country which is so dear to us. And I thank Mr. Abdul Rashid for his kind words, and I shall try to comply with his request, giving an account, a brief account of the way politics and democracy works and sometimes does not work in Turkey. As I said in my address to the Lahore High Court Bar this morning, the claim that the Turkish constitution traditionally empowers the military to intervene when it wishes is a myth, really. There is an article in the constitution which says that the army is charged with the task of protesting the republic, by which it is meant the state, and obviously an army has to protect the state. But I think it was during Zia al-Haq's regime in Pakistan that this article in the Turkish constitution was interpreted in a rather optimistic way for the military. Actually, the military do not have a method of consulting the constitution when they want to interfere. Even if you put an article that definitely forbids military intervention, that wouldn't prevent them from intervening if the conditions are conducive to that. As I said in my various addresses in Lahore during this short visit, I hold, and I can speak on this with a clear conscience because I have fought against all the military interventions in Turkey, but I cannot blame the military exclusively for military interventions in Turkey. Usually they are invited or sometimes even urged to intervention by some civilian groups, various civilian groups, never the masses, never the people, but some elite groups or some self-styled progressives. Some self-styled progressives, sometimes some lazy progressists or revolutionists. Instead of trying to obtain the support of the people for the reforms they have in mind, they try to use the army to implement those reforms. Or sometimes the opposite happens when some excessively conservative circles or interest circles want to prevent certain reforms, they also call the army into action. So I believe that in order to demilitarize the regime completely and effectively, we first have to demilitarize the minds of certain elite groups and certain intellectuals. It also so happens that some politicians, when they are faced with a serious crisis or with difficult problems, instead of coming together and cooperating in alliances, for instance, as you have been forming in this country, instead of cooperating to save the country from the crisis, or instead of trying collectively to surmount certain difficult problems, they again tend to call the army to action and to act for it. And this, as a result, decreases the people's confidence in politicians and in political parties. But we have taken lessons from the past, of course, and at the moment, fortunately, the prospect of a new military intervention doesn't appear on the horizon. The people, the masses, have never supported any military intervention. Because when the military intervenes and when democracy is suspended, the working people feel the harms in their own pockets, in their own workplaces. So they have never encouraged or supported military interventions. Therefore, I suggest that we should, those countries like Turkey and Pakistan who are afflicted with the malady of periodic military interventions, or who were hopefully in the past afflicted, should try to learn to come together and exert their responsibilities whenever they are faced with severe problems. And we should also improve our our democratic systems. I believe that the best cure for political problems in a country aspiring for democratization is more democracy rather than less democracy during periods of crisis. After these words on the internal politics, or the relationship of internal politics in Turkey with the military, I would like to say a few words, if you allow me, on the regrettable developments that are taking place in the Middle East and in the Balkans. What has been happening in Bosnia-Herzegovina is a very tragic case. The population of Bosnia-Herzegovina is about 4,200,000, or at least it used to be so, but about 1 million Muslim Bosnians have been forced to migrate, apart from hundreds of thousands who have been killed or crippled or wounded. And out of these 4,200,000 population, more than 2 millions are Bosnians, Bosnian Muslims. Yet in Turkey, over 4 million Turks of Bosnian origin live as our citizens. So we have a number of, such a great number of people of Bosnian origin in Turkey that is equal to the whole population of Bosnia-Herzegovina. So I believe, as most people in Turkey believe, that Turkey should have been much more active and effective in trying to save the Bosnian Muslims from the very cruel genocide that they have been faced with during the last year. I'm afraid it has proven to be a religious genocide. They are facing attacks from Serbian Christian Orthodox, and in those were among the physical targets of their bombings are mosques and minarets. They want to revenge history, revenge the Ottoman period, take revenge of the Ottoman period, and they want to eliminate the Muslims. They admitted publicly, they have given the name of ethnic cleansing to their military operation and genocide in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So I can't help perceiving the beginnings of a Christian Orthodox alliance against the Muslims of the region. As you know, Serbs are Orthodox, Greeks are Orthodox, Russians, the great majority of Russians, Byelorussians and Ukrainians are Orthodox, Bulgarians are Orthodox, and Greek Cypriots are Orthodox. They all have their, or most of them, not all, but most of them have their megalo ideas, big ideals. I can perceive an ominous alliance being forged among them, among the Islamic world. And I cannot accept the silence of most Islamic countries. Of course, Turkey has been raising the voice, Pakistan and some other Islamic countries keep their eyes closed, their ears closed to what's happening in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Of course, it would have been very dangerous if these countries intervened en bloc as an alliance of Islamic countries. Then there would emerge a religious war. But if they had more forcefully tried to do something, more effectively tried to do something about it, then the Western powers would feel obliged to act in a more responsible and effective way so as to prevent a religious war. Instead of trying to do something effective to stop the cruelty of the Serbian aggressors, the United States and some of its West European allies seem to have given a green light to the Serbian militants as far as Bosnia-Herzegovina is concerned, because the United States and some of its Western allies have openly warned the Serbians that they shouldn't take their aggression as far as Kosovo and Macedonia. What does that mean? That means you are free to do what you wish in Bosnia-Herzegovina, but please don't go beyond that. This, I believe, is giving a green light to them. I am very much embarrassed by the ineffectiveness of the Turkish official position. I believe we had things that we could do short of sending our armies there. We could at least have supplied the Serbians themselves with sufficient armaments. Sorry, the Bosnians who are suffering the Serbian genocide. Yet the West and the Security Council are exerting an arms embargo supposedly on Yugoslavia, but this only affects the Bosnian Muslims, because the Serbs can get as many armaments as they wish, and they produce armaments. They have highly developed armament industries in Serbia and in those parts of Bosnia-Herzegovina that they control. Now the West and the Security Council has come forth with a formula of dividing small Bosnia-Herzegovina into 10 parts, 10 autonomous parts. This is a very unpractical and unfair project, because until before the Serbian attack started, the Serbians, the Bosnian Muslims and Croatians lived mixed in all districts, whether they be villages, small towns or cities. So it would be cruel to force these people to come together in this canton or that canton. I'm afraid it has turned out to be a very desperate situation. And when I heard about the recent American air attacks on Iraq with some unconvincing pretext in my mind, unconvincing because Iraq hasn't recently attacked any country. It has only taken certain military measures to protect what has remained of their own country in their hands. They haven't been attacking anyone. They haven't been bombing any country. But I think that the United States has used the pretext of the movement of certain missiles, etc., to attack Iraq, so as to divert world public opinion's attention from its shameful attitude in Bosnia-Herzegovina. With regard to Cyprus, I know that you have always been supportive of the Turkish case in Cyprus. On that issue also, our Western allies and the Security Council has begun to put great pressure, increasing pressure on the Cypriot Turks and on Turkey, forcing the Turks to accept a rather unfair solution which Boutros-Ghali has been trying to impose on Cypriot Turks with American and British support. Yet I believe that in a sense the Cyprus question may be considered as settled, because before the Turkish action of July 1974 there was continuous conflict in the island, either because of Greek guerrillas attacking and massacring the Turks, or because of the conflicts among various Greek guerrilla groups. But since the Turkish action in Cyprus, that is during the last 18.5 years, there has not been a single fighting, a single fight. Uninterrupted peace has been prevailing on the island, benefits of fully democratic regimes. Again, before the Turkish action on Cyprus, both the Greeks and the Turks were rather poor. But since the Turkish action, and thanks largely to generous Western aids, the Greek Cypriot economy has prospered immensely. And in spite of the continuing Greek embargo on Turkish Cypriot economy, even the Turkish economy, although it lags inevitably behind the Greek economic development, it has also improved a lot. So what more can one wish? There is peace, there is democratization, there is increasing prosperity, and obviously the existing situation is an ideal solution or is an ideal basis for a lasting solution. But as long as the world does not recognize the existence, the fact of a Turkish republic in northern Cyprus, the Greeks will keep on cherishing a return to the status quo ante, and therefore they drag their feet with regard to a federal or confederal solution for Cyprus. But I am sure that if a few countries begin to recognize the undeniable fact of a Turkish state in northern Cyprus, then the Greeks will have to give up their dreams, their hopes of returning to the status quo ante, and will be more prepared to accept a reasonable and equitable agreement. With regard to Kashmir, we feel so much one with the Pakistani people that normally an average Turk doesn't ask whether Pakistan is right or wrong with regard to the Kashmir. They just support it. And I only regret that, although so many years ago the Security Council decided that the best way to solve the question is a plebiscite. That is to say, to give the people the right to decide the status of Kashmir. And if I'm not mistaken, although even Mr. Nehru also had supported it, this decision or recommendation of the Security Council has not yet been fulfilled. I hope that you will eventually be able to solve the question in a way that will satisfy the great majority of the people of Kashmir and of Pakistan. And thank you again for giving me this opportunity.